Okay, so we are almost at the end of this great text. Of course, last week you could not meet. I had a little bit of a health issue, so we could not have the class. So we have seen 55 shlokas. What remains is about 23 shlokas. 78 shlokas are there in chapter 18. Just to recollect, the first 12 shlokas were actually, Arjuna asked this question, should I do Tyaga or should I do, sannyasa, kind of a question that he asked, and then Krishna clarified once again that you cannot give up karma, but you have to give up karma pala. So the Tyaga is for the karma pala. Tyaga is not for, sannyasa is not giving up work. Sannyasa is, what he really meant was karma pala tyaga. And that was what was the first 12 shlokas. Then shlokas 13 to 18, he spoke about how is the work organized. The most important reference there is Daivam cha atra panchamam. There is a fifth element in everything that we do in our work. He described 4 elements, karta, and then cheshta, karana, right? Adhisthana. These 4 he said, but then he finally ended up by saying Daivam cha atra panchamam. I think that's the most important message. He really said, understand work. Work is not just what you do, or if you think you have the right instruments, you have the right platform on which you can exhibit your work, and you have the right processes in place. He says you are 80% complete. Daivam cha atra panchamam. So that's the most important thing that he spoke about. Then 19th shloka to 40th shloka, he brought these 7 different types of the triguna. He talked about karma, he talked about agent, he talked about sukha, he talked about dhriti, he talked about buddhi. So he showed how everything that we do in our life has this 3-part classification. Everything that we do in life can be measured through this lens of sattva, rajas and tamas. And he said that only to go ahead with the next 8 shlokas, 41 to 48, where he introduced the varnas. And his treatment of varnas directly comes out of the preceding discussion of sattva, rajas and tamas. So he says the varna that each one of us, the color that we all have, each one of us have our own shade of this RGB. The color that we have is a function of a certain combination of sattva, rajas and tamas. And he went on to say, aligned to that, you do what your nature is, you are likely to do probably the best in your life. So that's what he brought about. And then this very famous shloka in which he said, Swakarmana tam abhyarchya siddhim vindati manavaha. It's a very, very important shloka. He actually gave us a way to handle everything that comes out of work by that single shloka. Anyway, we'll touch upon it a little bit today. And then he got into a couple of shlokas on meditation, which was discussed in great detail in chapter 6. And from there he moved on to today. What we will see is he gets into devotion and divine grace. So the point is, if you look at this whole flow in this chapter 18, after all chapter 18 is again a summary. So there is a very sound logic. It's a beautiful logic that I see. Ramatirtha, who was a great, he was as powerful as Swami Vivekananda. 1928 to 1933, he was a professor of mathematics in University of Lahore, and then he gave up and became a sannyasin. He also traveled to the US. His entire lectures are available in 7 volumes. It's like, it will pierce you like anything. His lectures are so powerful. So he has 7 volumes called In the Wood of God Realization. All his collected lectures are available in 7 volumes. I remember one lecture which would very nicely, try to justify or show how chapter 18 is flowing. In one lecture, I remembered it, so I have also noted on last time also. I think I spoke about it in my detailed interaction. He narrated something very interesting. This is the power of Ramatirtha. Look at what he is saying. He is saying, look at a river. He traces a river. He says, Himalayan, moment you say river in this country, the best example is the Himalayan region and the great rivers, they are coming out of it. So he takes that example and then he says, look at this sojourn of the river. That lecture talked only about that. What is he saying? He says, first of all, where does the river start? The river starts in the snow-clad mountains. It's not a river yet. It's all in the peak of the highest ranges. It's all snow. No life, not a grass, nothing. It's all a white sheet of ice, if you were to call it. So no life, nothing, sheets of snow, sun is shining absolutely pure. That is the purest form. Shining like a crystal. No life, no activity, nothing. That is stage 1 of a river. He talks about 4 stages of a river. So I think we must look at that. So that is stage 1. Look at the stage 2. By the action of the sun, by the grace of this heat of the sun, the snow starts melting. Correct? When the snow starts melting, a rivulet is formed. And you just go and see, Talakaveri, you go to Nashik and see Godavari. Godavari will be like a small little gutter. The origin is like that. You go to Talakaveri, it will be a very, very small little, it's like you cut a small gutter out of your house, water to flow out, that's all. That is how the river's second stage is. When the snow melts and it becomes a little water, it forms a small little rivulet. That's how all rivers are. It's a thin line. Talakaveri takes 7 kilometers before it surfaces as real Kaveri, Bhagamandala. Until then you will not really find it. And same is true of Godavari. So it is narrow, it is curvy, it's not much energy, but there is action. Definitely action, but you can't claim energy in that stage of the river. It's all thin, narrow stream, small little thing running, right? Very limited impact, not much action, little action. This is stage 2 of a river. Okay? Now let's see, now the river comes to the plains. That is where you really start seeing the power of the river. It gets muddy, it gets wide. There is enormous force that it has brought. There is enormous life. It creates life. Gangetic plain, some 1,500 kilometers, life is made. Tons and tons of, Krishi Karya is happening, the entire food is supplied from there. So the third stage of the river is it comes down, river becomes very big, it changes color, it's very muddy. Here it is crystal clear. Once it is in action, it gets muddy. It gets very muddy, takes different color, and then it generates a variety of life. What was lifeless, actionless, as a snow in the peak, which melted into a rivulet, is the same Vyakti now, is the root cause of lives. Varieties of aquatic lives, lives in the surrounding, life, your lives, my lives, everything is actually created by that. So that's the third stage. River is put to a lot of use. In Brahmaputra they actually run ships. And if you go to Arunachal Pradesh, they talk about coast to coast. 8 kilometers is the breadth of the river. And there are islands in between. And when BPCL built a refinery in Assam, which is the highest refinery in India, they actually carried 18 meters is something like 18-story building. Because 3 meters is 10 feet. 18 meters of the whole thing, they actually in situ they took it and carried it through Brahmaputra to that place. And from there 10 kilometers they have to go to the refinery. They actually built 4 bridges. The project was delayed by 4 years because otherwise this cannot go. The trailer cannot go. But the river could do that. It could bring it almost near the point. That's the might of the river that we are talking about. So that is third stage. Now the question that we need to ask, is what is the ultimate destination of the river. All that is okay, but then the ultimate destination of the river, in fact, poets have very vividly described. Poets are saying rivers are ceaselessly running because it wants to meet the other half and it wants to merge into the ocean. That's what in chapter 2 in Bhagavad Gita is said, Apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudram pravishanti apaha yadvat. Just like the mightiest rivers in the world will just empty into the ocean will not even shake. Its height will not even increase by half an inch. There he described that to describe what should be the, akamakami. How do you actually evolve in life? For that he brought that example. But the fact is, the river, right? The ultimate destination of the river is the ocean. And because the river, poets have described it so well, because the river is so genuine that the Samudra Raja said, I'll come 10 kilometers in. That is called backwaters. It says, I will come and receive you. That's what it is. Just go and see the backwaters of every river. You will be humbled. In fact, I had a magical experience when I saw Godavari in Nashik. 15 days later, I happened to be in Rajamundry. I was stunned. What I saw as nothing humbled me when I went to Rajamundry because the bridge was a kilometer long. That's where the river actually ends. Now, Sri Ramatirtha describes this. I mean, this is a very natural phenomenon that we are seeing. He describes this and he says, do you know what you have to infer from that? He says, the river yet to be formed and just sheets of snow in the highest peak of, it's called Karana Sharira. He actually links the greatest life truth. That's the power of Ramatirtha. In one lecture, he will be able to link the greatest truths just like that. So he says that stage 1 of the river is actually Karana Sharira. There is a causal body. There is a grace of the Lord which melted it. Then it became a Sukshma Sharira. That's why it's a rivulet. It's a thin stream which is flowing. It doesn't have energy. It's like it's still not active. The child for 18 months is like that. It doesn't know the world. Hand will go in one direction, eye will go in another direction. It has not engaged with this dirty world yet. That's why. Just as the river is all tiny, small, clean, still clean, rivulet, he calls it as Sukshma Sharira. Once you come to the plains, that is Stula Sharira. It has all its might, it gets into the world of Vyavahara. So in order to get into the world of Vyavahara, the Karana Sharira must be equipped with Sukshma Sharira, which is dormant. It is potential energy. It is still not kinetic energy. It is still potential energy. And then you need the Stula Sharira, which is the Pancha, the Bahishkaranas, the Jnanendriyas, all these frills that we have. These are all called the Jnanendriyas and Karmendriyas. Then you get into the world of Vyavahara. Then he asks, then what is our goal now? He says, go back to the river and see. What is our goal now? Our goal is to merge. That is what the river is telling us. The river is telling us, you from Karana Sharira, you become a Sukshma Sharira, you become a Stula Sharira, but your ultimate goal is to merge. To merge with that one. But that is exactly the order in which chapter 18 is going. He talked about the world of Vyavahara, all karma and all that. He talked about all the trigunas which are all part of the Sukshma Sharira and so on. And now Sri Krishna is going to take us to that last part. He said, why are we doing all this? We are doing all this because, we have to think about it. If you ask what is the goal in our life? What is the goal in our life? I mean, we can say, I want to earn money, I want to have a good house, I want to have a comfortable living, I want to have security for living. These are all subordinate goals. That is not what we are working. That is not what we are interested in. What we are interested in is we want to be very peaceful. We want to revel in that sense of fulfillment. Samriddhi. We want Samriddhi and Shanti. We only thought Shanti and Samriddhi comes by a good job. This is it's a surrogate goal. We replace the main goal with some other goal. We made a simple assumption, X is equal to Y. That's all we did. Why do you work? If you search this question deeply, why do you work? Why do you want security? I think finally we'll tell that answer. I mean, we have to ask this question several times to us. If you ask this question several times to us, finally we will say that. No. What I actually meant was I want to have the sense of fullness. Apuryamanam achala pratishtam. Samudram apaha pravishanti yadvat. Just like the river, when it pours into the mightiest river can pour into the ocean is without any chanchala. That state I want. Now I thought by having a job and education and a car and whatever, we will get. That is the assumption. I think we need to not just settle with that assumption. I mean, while that they are all called intermediate goals. What is our ultimate goal? Our ultimate goal is I want to be unshaken. I don't want small things in life to bother me. By getting more salary, there is no guarantee this will happen. That's what when Buddha was asked, that's what he said. He said, Yedi ishta jananam viyogaha na bhavet. People I love the most will not be separated. Give me the guarantee. People ask, why do you want to give the kingdom and go? He said, I want 2 guarantees. Yedi janma mrityu jara vyadi, those things don't happen. Can you guarantee that? Number 2, ishta jananam viyogaha. People who I love the most should not be separated from me. Can you guarantee that? If you can't guarantee that, he says this is not interesting to me. I mean, he had that much of vairagya and wisdom to say that we understand it conceptually. We are not able to go beyond that. But the fact remains, ultimately, we want to say that I want that peace. I want that fullness. Now, that fullness is nothing but identifying ourselves with that larger principle. That is why in Svetashwara Upanishad it says, Vayam sarve amartya purushaha. We are all children of immortality. Discovering that truth, discovering the sense through experience, not by knowledge. Knowledge is easy. You can read all Upanishads, we can memorize it, that's the end of the story. That's the knowledge. We are saying by experience, through anubhava. So that is what is very, very important. So all the work that we are doing, if it is not taking me there, that's why, at the end of the day, with a lot of money, the choice we can make is when we can die in a cart made of gold. 24 karat gold you can't make, so may say 22 karat gold. Because 24 pure items are of no use. Purusha is of no use. You need Prakriti for Vyavahara. So in the same way, pure gold you can't do anything. Add some copper. So maybe 22 karat gold you can breathe your last. That much this money can help us. And the power can help us when you breathe last, 100 people can be around you, or 1,000 people can be around you, or after you breathe the last, people can fight on your body. All those are possible. The breathing last is the same. So I think that is what we are interested. We are saying, so if you more think about it, while by no imagination I am saying we are going to give up the job. I am not saying that. I am only saying you cannot replace that goal with this goal and be satisfied. While you pursue this goal, you must constantly remember the goal was that. For the moment I have shifted the goal, so I create that gap with me that gives me the basis for inquiry. That gives me the basis to find out who I am and what is that I should do. So if you read our Vedantic literature, that talks about this merger. Just like Ramatirtha says, the river took its birth not to stay alone somewhere. It wanted to get merged, finally. Sindhu Saridvallabham is what, in Bhakti's definition, there are 5 examples. Ankolakam Nijabija Santatihi, Ayaskantopalam Suchika, Sadvim Naija Vibhum, Lata Kshitirugham, Sindhu Saridvallabham. 5 examples Adi Shankara gives in Shivananda Lagari by definition of Bhakti. The last definition he said is Sindhuhu Saridvallabham. The river says, my husband is the, it's a very figurative usage. River says, my husband is the ocean, I should ceaselessly run and merge with him. It is, the bhava there is merging with that larger principle. That's where Krishna is taking us. These are the closing shlokas in chapter 18. So he talked about Sukshma, he talked about karma, the activity. We are in the plains. Now we have to approach the backwaters, is what is very, very important. And that is what these shlokas are all about. This is one way. There is another way to understand all these thoughts which we find in Bhagavad Gita. Just let's take another parable. Leave the parable of the river. Let's take another parable. See, if we want to sow some seeds and reap the benefits out of it, it's not just, the process is not as good as just bring some seeds and then throw it on some ground and something happens. It is not that. There is a very structured process. So look at that parable. Step one is the ground must be prepared. You can't just, in fact, Swami Vivekananda, Ramakrishna Paramahansa was asked the question, Vivekananda was asked the same question. Ramakrishna Paramahansa was asked by Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar when he went to his house. He asked the question, why is, in a different way I am saying, the conversation is very cryptic. He asked, why is God so cruel? He created some people poor, He created some people rich, He also inflicted the poor with a lot of diseases. You have all kinds of combinations. You have people who go scot-free and then make all kinds of mischief, they are very wealthy. And I am expanding that cryptic idea for the purpose of understanding. That's the question, for which Ramakrishna Paramahansa gave a very cryptic answer, which required a lot of thinking. He said, I just like that did not come and see you. I did not come and see Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar just for the sake of it. And he left it. We have to actually understand that sentence much more deeply. But whereas Vivekananda gave an explanation for that in a different way, let us say. And somebody asked Vivekananda the same question. Vivekananda's answer was, he retorted back, saying, when the heaven opens and pours, heaven does not say this is MLA's plot, this is somebody else's plot, and this is that, and this is that. Heaven will pour. You prepare the ground, you will get you leave the ground, it will be all weeds. You have to spend money cleaning it. He says, the problem is not with the heavens. The divine grace flows. It is blinds neutral. It flows. So that is what I call as preparing the ground. Right? So the first step to do anything worthwhile is preparing the ground. Sri Krishna talked about Karma Yoga. What is Karma Yoga? This kshetra must be prepared. This kshetra must be properly prepared. That is where the whole idea of, because Karma Yoga will lead to what? Chitta Shuddhi. That is the preparation for any gainful thing to happen in this superordinate goal that we have. So the first step is to prepare the ground. And that is what the whole discussion of Karma Yoga. Then the ground must be fenced. If you prepare the ground and leave it, cattle will eat it away the moment you throw some seeds into it. And that fencing is what chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita is. The achara and vichara are very, very important. The abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihhyate. What does it say? It says, put the fence. Put some effort. Nothing comes without ayasa, there is no payasa. So put that effort. Put that serious effort that is required. So that is, you need to really fence. Which means, that is the tapas. That is the meditation. So many things we talked about. They are all the fencing part. We cannot compete with the animals. We have no business to compete with the animals. We have to evolve to the next higher level. And that is this fencing business. How do we do a little control, sense control? That's why Arjuna asked, he said, abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihhyate. So that is the second. Seeds must be sown on the ground. Now that is where we need Ishwara Kripa and Guru Kripa. This journey will be futile otherwise. It will be absolutely futile. We need the grace of the Lord, and the grace of the Lord comes in many ways. The most interesting, most powerful way is a teacher in some form. That is what germinates. That is what seeds this whole journey. So we need Guru Kripa, we need Ishwara Kripa. And that is why he talked about devotion. He talked about how do you get it? You have to, that's why he said, in chapter 7, if you remember, he talked about 4 types of bhaktas. He said, Arti, Arthartha, Jignyasa and Jnani. So it all depends on what you endured for, you will get. He says, Artis, people who are very agitated, want to have a transactional relationship with God. Sort it out, I will sort out something for you. Or, get me a promotion, I will put 2 coconuts or something like that. So we may start like that. For us, God may be a transactional entity, that's all right, but you cannot live your life Janma after Janma only in this transactional business. That means we are refusing to pass out of LKG to UKG. That is the meaning. We refuse to move up in this ladder. It's all Swaprayatna. Swaprayatna comes with more devotion, the grace will come. Because that he said in chapter 9, in so many places, he said, what I will do. You know, think of Tasma Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha Mayarpita Manobuddhi Mameva Yeshyasina Samshaya. Chapter 9 is full of saying, how will I pour the grace on you? You show devotion, I will pour the grace. So that is required. Then water must be, you need the water and the manure or whatever. That is what is the Shravana Manana Nididhyasa. I think these satsanga, that's why, Adi Shankara says, satsangatve nissangatvam, nissangatve nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nischalatatvam, nischalatatve jivan muktaha, jivan muktihi. So that's what he said. So I think the Shravana Manana Nididhyasa, when the ground is prepared, when there is a Chitta Shuddhi, when we have Achara Vichara which has tied the fence for us, we have a true devotion to the Lord and then get into a serious contemplation, we will catapult. So those are all the ideas that has come in Bhagavad Gita in so many chapters, which are all summarized very, very crisply, because chapter 18 very little scope. That's why you have 2 slokas from meditation, and today we will see some slokas, 3, 4, 5 slokas on the grace, the divinity and the grace and so on. So we will see some of those today. So we have, as I told, we have seen all these so far. The first 12 slokas, which is in the form of a reply, then how work is being performed, the components of work, then the Triguna classification, which went up to sloka 39. We saw that. We have seen the guna and the varna, and we have seen how the work has to be dedicated, and then we are here today. Up to 56 we saw last class. So we'll start from 57. Actually, the whole Gita teaching is over with 66. The Charma shlokas are 65 and 66. It's over. After that, these are all only closing formalities. Gita teachings are over with 66. So we will try to close it with 66 today. Next class we will just wind up the balance. There are interesting ideas even there also. But we will try to see 57 to 66 today. This final set of shlokas we will see. So 56 sloka, he says, Sarva karmani api, Sarva karmani api, Sada kurvanaha, Madvyapashrayah, Mad prasadat avapnoti, Shashwatam padam avyayam. In fact, there are 3-4 shlokas. I just want to little bit talk about where are we now, and then take these shlokas. I thought, let me, right? So we talked about karma pala tyaga in this chapter. We talked about the different aspects of work, Daivam Chatra Panchamam, the importance of Swadharma, the Varna and Swadharma, all those have come. Now, after all these are being discussed, Krishna now takes the discussion further to say what is the relationship between work and devotion. It's all about work. Bhagavad Gita is all about work. Thing in our life. That is the only thread in Bhagavad Gita. So the next discussion is, what is the relationship between karma and devotion? That in simple, what is the message we are going to see? Since, see, if we are alive, kicking, right? Because in chapter 3 he has said all that. He said there is no state of no work. If you are alive, you are doing some work. That and all he has settled out in chapter 3 itself. So now, since as long as we are alive, we are always in work, then what does it mean? Moment you say work, there are 2 things which can bother us. So that is what he is addressing through these shlokas. In karmani, in work, karmani is the 7th case. In work, which means when it comes to working, see, there are 2 things. You work and start looking at the results. These are the only 2 things we keep doing all the time. We engage in work, and moment the work is over, we start counting the beans and get into trouble. These are the two parts. I mean, I simplified the whole thing into issues which are of importance to us. So karmani, or what should you do in karma while you are engaged in karma? If you read these 5-6 shlokas, the message is Ishwara Arpana Buddhihi. If you can engage work with an Ishwara Arpana Buddhi, that is what he is saying. We will see the merit of what he is saying. So karmani Ishwara Arpana Buddhihi, or bhavana, whatever you want to say. Karma pale. Now the pala is coming. Karma pale prasada buddhihi. If we know, this appears to be a simple idea. If only we know that the work, all this he has said. In chapter 11 he said, Nimitta matram, chapter 11 he said, in 53rd sloka, I mean one of those 30s, Nimitta matram bhava savyasachin. He actually showed in his Vishwarupa Darshana, he showed that Bhishma, Drona, everybody was crushed. At that time, the next sloka it says that all what has to be done are all pre-programmed. We are all foolishly thinking we are doing, but we are all acting here. Please act. That is what it is. Ishwara Arpana Buddhi means, I mean, we are an instrument in this karma, and this world of activities is an expression of godliness. If you can understand the multitude of good or bad, everything put together, the multitude of activity you see in this world, ways. Moment that idea seizes us very strongly, we will find I am an instrument there. I am playing in that game. And then Ishwara Karmani Ishwara Arpana Bhavana or Buddhi, Karma Pale Prasada Buddhi. That's what will come. Let us see how that will be the message. If you read all these, finally it is Sarva Karmani Api. In all work that we do, Sada Kurvanaha, when you are doing Madvyapashrayaha, keep me as the reference frame for you. Keep me at the reference frame for you means that we will do the Ishwara Arpana Buddhi. That Ishwara Arpana Buddhi will not come by memorizing this sentence. To change this orientation to see the world. There are lots of things happen here. This is a great act of the divinity. If we more and more understand that, our role gets very, very, and Vyapashraya is refuge. Actually, another correct word is Vyapashraya is taking refuge. Mad Vyapashraya, you take refuge in me and do. Now, when will we take refuge? To take refuge. The 4 conditions are, first you should believe in the existence of that entity. Otherwise, where is the refuge possible? You believe in the existence of the entity. In his or her words and intentions, ... That is the second part. That is required. Otherwise, this refuge will not happen. Leave everything to him. That is a 4th part, which is an outcome of all that. That is what happens in these 2 examples. If the child takes refuge in the mother, it recognizes the existence, it believes in this entity called mother, it totally surrenders to it, and you know what is the price that the parents pay? They are now in great pressure. The child is free now. It will run on the road, it will go here, go there. Why? The child says, my remote control is elsewhere now. Implicitly the child knows. That is called taking refuge. The child problem, as long as we say we are solving our problem, we will visit the hospital as often as possible. Simple. You know, it is just beyond a point we can't manage, because the Lord's creation is so complex. Say, I will solve the problem. When the going is good, you will say, I did it. When the going is bad, you say, God is very unfair. That also, you throw everything on the other side now. God comes only when failure happens. When you have a serious illness, if you don't take refuge in the doctor, your illness will never be cured. All the 4 conditions are important. You cannot say, moment you have. That's why Shraddhavan Lavate Jnanam is useful here also. You need Shraddha. This is called Shraddha. Vyapashraya will come only when you have Shraddha. Actually get anything meaningful out of the doctor. At the end of it, Daivam Chatra Pancham will also work. Doctor will put the honest day's work. If the God says time is over, he will have to go. There's nothing to do with the doctor beyond a point. Everything is wired through that. That is the meaning, actually. So, practically, he is giving a very practical example, very practical guideline to us. Somebody is responsible, I will jolly well do. I mean, it's very hard to think about this idea, but these examples make us reflect. So that is Mad Vyapashraya. So he says, moment you take refuge in me, it is not bother about safety. So is the patient. He leaves everything to the doctor and the hospital, and they really fight it out. They really do whatever needs to be done because the entire responsibility is now handed over there. That's what he's saying in the second sentence. Mat prasadat avapno. So you take refuge in me and my grace will flow. My grace will flow, and if the grace flows that the patient has to go, it is actually grace. Don't think death is bad. I mean, we already talked all those in great detail. There is nothing like bad and good in death and all that. These are all. Don't jump too much into all that. God has grace you cannot understand. Don't waste your time trying to understand. This is what we do in life. We want to understand everything that is happening. Why is it happening? You can connect everything and you found the answer. Even a managerial problem you cannot solve. We don't teach an exact solution to any problem in this institute. Because it is not possible. We will only say under these conditions, these are possible, and then we take our hands off. Dropping a stone, where you can use Newton's third law and then calculate, when it will fall in nanoseconds, I can tell you. You can't tell what will happen if I, go into the, there is a situation, I handle it in a particular way, what will happen? I can't tell. When world is so complex, why are you doing too much? He is giving a very practical guideline. Become wiser in life. You can become wiser in life when you take your hands off a little bit. I mean, it's a slow process. We should know how to take our hands off and freely engage in activities. If you do it, Shashwat, I am guaranteeing you, you should have faith in me. You should believe in the existence of me, leave everything to my will, believe that there is something like divine will which is playing, and I am nimitta matram bhavasavya sachin. All that we need to understand from this shloka. So that's what he is saying here. This is the Ishvara Arpana Buddhi I talked about. By your mind give the work to me. Not by physical. You can give the work physically. That means I am not going to do any work. Chetasa mayi sanyasya. You give up all work mentally. In a mental plane, you say these all belong to the Lord. Chetasa sarva karmani mayi sanyasya matparaha. Buddhi yogam upashritya machittaha satatam bhava. That is the only way you will remember me all the time. Otherwise, this will distract you like anything. That is why, in a very, very dramatic way, Draupadi's, disrobing demonstrated that. This story demonstrated exactly that. Until she was distracted with trying to protect herself, she was in agitation. Moment she said, Chetasa mayi sanyasya, moment she took her hands off and said, you will protect me, the protection came. That story, we have to look at the Sukshma only. You can't look at the front end of the story. You have to look at the Sukshma. Sukshma is saying that. That's what he's saying. Chetasa sarva karmani mayi sanyasa. If you can't do it, your mind will be distracted because your ahankara and your mind are now fully engaged because I have to solve the problem, I only know how to solve it, and I start suspecting everything, I start protecting in which we will be in. If you spend all your energy on it, where is time to think about God? So to think about God is a good shloka I have memorized in Bhagavad Gita. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara is a shloka that I have. What is the practical way to give the time? This is a practical way. The only way you will focus on God is you take focus from something else and find out which is, you do ABC analysis and find out where is all my energy going now, and find out how to take it from there and put it here. That is what he is saying here. So, Chetasa sarva karmani mayi sanyasya matparaha, he says, that is the buddhi yoga you have to bring. Buddhi yogam upashritya matchittaha satatam bhava. You will be now fixed on me all the time. This matchittaha satatam bhava, in several ways he has said, these 3 shlokas that I have put below. The second triplet of Bhagavad Gita is only this. Again and again he has said, in particularly chapter 8 and 9. Look at the 7th sloka. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, therefore, at all times, 24/7, sarveshu kaleshu, mam anusmara, keep remembering me. Yudhyacha, fight your life. You fight your life, but remember me. Like the Karaga dancer will do all kinds of juggleries, but the attention is on the part on the head. And these days they tie it and all that, makes it a little easy. But otherwise, while they do anything, their attention is always on the head. They may put a plate, they do all kinds of juggleries. They walk on the plate, tiptoe it, everything. But while they engage in all that, their mind is always, this is what Vidyaranya says in his Panchadashi or somewhere, the shloka is a beautiful shloka. There is one, I don't remember, by heart it is not coming to me. He says, just like the Karaga dancer, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa in his parable says, keep one hand onto the pole, don't leave, and then you rotate and do whatever you want to do, you will not fall. The moment you leave it, it will fall. So that is you have to hold. And Yudhyacha, do. He says, if you do it, because your buddhi is now, you have done the arpana of the buddhi to me, mayarpita mano buddhi, your manas and buddhi, chetasa and buddhi, both are there in this shloka also. In this 57 shloka, you have chetas in the first line, buddhi in the second line. That's what he said in chapter 8 anyway. Mayarpita mano buddhi, mameva yeshyasi nasamshaya. Don't have an iota of doubt, it will reach me. Take a little time, but it will reach me. Finally, that merger which I talked about will happen. Is what he is saying there. Ananya chintayanto mam yejana paryupasate tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yogakshemam mahamyam. What kind of assurances Krishna is giving? He is asking you, think of me. The more you think of me, the more rewards I am going to give. All that he is said in a very simple sentence. Practically we find it's a lot of thinking that we need to do. It is a certain perspective we have to have in our life. That's the second. The last shloka in chapter 9. Yat karoshi, yad ashnati, yad juhoshi dadasi tat, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. Do the arpana, all your activities. So he has taken some different examples of work. In other words, he says, do a Ishvara arpana. Life is a lot more manageable for you. You try it for yourself. That's what he is saying. You do that. You will find suddenly energy in you, you have inner strength. We all lack inner strength. These are all solutions for inner strength. Outer strength there is enough. You can even have a rod or somebody can hold you, all that is possible. Inner strength nobody can hold you, no rod can be inserted inside. You can. He is talking about inner strength. So that inner strength will come only if we believe in the divine grace. So that's where he is leading us, these shlokas, as we wind up the text. Matchittaha, so these 3 shlokas. Matchittaha sarva durgani mat prasadat tarishyasi. Atachet. So he says, if you put your mind in me, what will happen? The difficulties that you go through, I will sit in your brain. That he has said in 9th chapter. He has already said that. The difficulty that you go through, I will sit in your mind and I will make it easy for you. So I narrated this story long back. See, something may happen, some family bereavement can happen, so many things can happen. The point is not that. The point is, if you have divinity, divine grace and all that, they think none of this will happen. That is foolish. It's not that. Because they are all kshetra dharma. They are all prarabdha karma which you have to. If you have to fall today and then break your hand, that is prarabdha. You know what is prarabdha? Prarabdha is you set an alarm clock for 5 o'clock. Now, today it is electronic, earlier it is key. Let's say I gave the key and set it for 5 o'clock. It will actually blow. It will keep on blowing in the mechanical thing until it unwinds, it will blow. Then it will stop. So, prarabdha is, once you have come in here, it has started unwinding. You can't stop it. So, what is grace? Divine grace is not avoiding you from all that. I don't think like that. Divine grace is, it will make you go through without agitation, without mental stress. That is the biggest bonus we want in life. That is what we want. I mean, the other thing is also required, but then this is more important. So that is what he says, Sarva Durgani, all obstacles in life, Mat Prasada Tarishyasi, which means you don't avoid. It doesn't mean you avoid, the obstacles will never come to you, that's not the meaning. The meaning is, the grace will take you, you will weather it. God will come and sit in your mind and it will give you that frame of mind to go through the adversities that we had in life. That is the greatest form of expression of divine grace. And then he says, the second sentence, Ata, if you don't believe in all these, if you say all these are, you can keep saying, Ata Chet, if on the other hand, Ahankarat, right? Nashrosesi, you are not willing to listen to me. You don't want to listen to me. On why I will not listen? That's where the Ahankara is playing. See, ego, one of my friend once sent me a mail. Mahadevan, ego means evicting God out. EGO. So he said evicting God out of your system is called ego. I thought that was a nice way of actually saying what an ego is. Anyway, so he says when you have Ahankara, then you will perish. Nashya, you will perish. He says, choice is yours. That is the greatness of the Indian text. You read Puranas, you read Veda, you read Gita, whatever. You do this. You will never find it. Contrary to saying this Hinduism and this Sanatana Dharma is dogmatic, it is not at all dogmatic. It only says A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Gita has 66 sloka. After 700 slokas, you know what Krishna said finally? 66 sloka means 688 slokas. 680. Yatochasi tatkuru, something like that is there. I have told whatever I want to say, do what you want to do. That's the greatness of this literature. So it will only say you have to be wiser. If you are not wiser, tell that. So we have all kinds of obstacles. Adi Bhautikam, Adhyatmikam. You don't know why you got headache today morning. After you get a headache, the allopathy will actually. That allopathy or science cannot answer. After you see the event, I can explain how it happened and I will try how to sort it out. Sometimes it clicks also. But you can never say, why did I get headache today morning? I have to write an exam and there is a severe headache today morning. This is called Adhyatmikam. Why did somebody get a heart attack at 12:05 on a particular day? Why can't they do it 10 years later or a few years before? Who is going to answer? These are called obstacles. Obstacles are those which are unplanned, undesigned, unexplainable. That's the definition of obstacle. You cannot explain with the best of your science. You can explain after it has happened. How it happened only you can explain. Why you cannot explain? Get a heart attack now. They can say why heart attack came. That is the how part of it. It is not why actually. It is how. So obstacle means that which cannot be explained at all. That's called as obstacle. It can be adhyat. right? These are all the things. Actually, your neighbor, I had a neighbor several years back. My daughter was 2 years old. This man was the first floor of my house. Just about my daughter is going to go to sleep, he will put a 2000 watts something. My daughter will jump off the bed. So for 3-4 days I was very, very courteous. Then one day I told him, because I don't want to, after all we have to live as neighbors, I'm willing to put up with it, but my daughter cannot put up. So the question is, why is he blowing that music and then spoiling my daughter's music sleep? I have no idea. He could have chosen not to play that music that day. Or, the air conditioner did not work on a very hot day. I don't know why. It just collapsed. And then, you know what we say? God is so cruel, everything is not working today, AC is also not working, current is also gone, my milkman did not come. All these are Adi, Bauddha. Today your paper did not come, your boss asked you to come 1 hour early, the geyser went for a fut, it is minus, it is 5 degrees centigrade in Delhi, right? But if you have the divine grace of the God, you know how to manage it and go. That is what it means. Or Adi Daivikam. There is a tsunami. There is a rain. I don't know. After it has happened, you can do your differential equation and say why it happened and what forces create. All that is possible. Science can only explain after everything has happened. So by definition, obstacles are those which you cannot even explain, leave alone predict. Why it happened. How you can explain, but not why. You need divine grace to take it. That's what he's saying. If you think you will do it, you will just spoil your own mood. You will spill the bad blood elsewhere and then spoil the whole ecosystem, which many can take us out of all this. So that's what he's saying here. Then there are 2 beautiful shlokas. Now before that shloka, I want to tell you a little bit the whole now let's ask a few questions. The first question we can ask is, which is what Arjuna is trying to do. The whole context for Bhagavad Gita is there. Yes, so repeatedly is asking Krishna, can I do Tyaga or Sannyasa? Can I do something or Sannyasa? He has been very smartly changing the vocabulary throughout Bhagavad Gita. The question is, let us take this hypothetical example, because that didn't happen. Fortunately, let's take that possibility. The possibilities are, first of all, understand Arjuna is a good warrior. Something happened, he is little shaking. That's what chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita. He is a good leader, he is a great warrior. He has tons and tons of his character is available to make a sense of what person is standing in front of me. But he is collapsing now. Now because he is collapsing, in fact all of us have this in our life. When it is very low, we want a lot of sannyasi thinking in our mind. What I mean by sannyasi thinking is we want to be very detached, we want to say I want to live a very, all that, when we are very low. That is what Arjuna. Matulaha, Swashuraha, Suhridischaiva, Senayo, Rubayorapi. That is the problem. Now the point is, why I am saying all of us have that problem. When the going is very, very bad, sannyasic kind of a thing, very detached, I don't want to, I will be very clean, I will not talk to anybody, I will be very simple, I will withdraw everything to myself. We exhibit, after a few days we become alright, that's a different issue. Arjuna became a sannyasi. Now what will happen, because he is a great warrior, these are all the things that will happen. Now first thing is the Kauravas will rule the roost now. Now they have won the war with the war is, if it is a game, there is a walkover given by the Pandavas. And Pandavas will be just chased away. And Arjuna is very happy to be chased away because he wants to become a sannyasin. So he will get chased away, no problem. I don't know about the other 4, let's talk about the Arjuna part only. Now what will happen is, it will be just a matter of time before Arjuna comes with 10 times the vigor. You know why? Because Duryodhana will go and say, he will tell all kinds of things. He'll say he's a coward. He'll say this fellow is good, not good for fighting. He pretends to be a great warrior. He's a useless fellow. He is a eunuch. Krishna said, you are a eunuch. Klaibyam asma. He used the word klaibya. Klaibya means eunuch. He says, na etad upapadyate. That's what second sloka chapter 2. Klaibyam asma gamapartha nai etat tayi upapadyate kshutva hrade daurbalyam tyaktva uttishta parantapa is what he said. So good for nothing. See, he couldn't even stand. All this will build pressure. Moment it builds pressure, my nature, that's why all these nature are described in Bhagavad Gita. My nature is to be a warrior. I can be like that for some days. Now I will come with twice the vigor. I will say I will happily die. Or I will finish. I will come with so much of by doing something which is against your nature, you are only postponing the issue. This applies to every one of us. We can only postpone the issue. We will come back with twice the vigor. So let me ask, can I become a sannyasi from tomorrow? Forget Arjuna. Let me ask, can I become a sannyasi tomorrow? Instead of solving that complicated problem, I will solve a slightly simpler problem. But I started some 10, 12 years back I started. I vividly remember what will happen. I will fast for a day with great difficulty and take revenge the next day. This is how I what is it trying to say? Even in such a simple thing I can't handle. I mean, this is a sthula sharira vishaya. Whereas nature is a sukshma sharira vishaya. I am now talking about a very simple issue. It's like, now I don't have that urge. I can afford to fast and then nothing happens to me. Because it is a sthula sharira sambandha, not a partly sukshma sharira sambandha. No, if I want to, that's why I see some people say I will not eat this, that for 4-5 days. During weekdays they say no fat, nothing. One day they go. And pizza, that compensates. Better you eat every day little. For such a simple thing we can't do, how am I going to answer that can I become sannyasi? Which is what this man is asking. Let's take another example. A CEO of a very successful company says, I want to become a sannyasi. And I can imagine what will happen. What will happen is, if he becomes a sannyasi and goes to the ashrama, in about 2 months he will become a lead. He will take leadership position in the ashrama. Because that is his nature. Na? He will clean up things. He will put an attendance system or something. He will make sure food is served exactly at 8 o'clock, not at 8:01. Late comers are all. Ashrama, you will see it. All will happen. So, instead of getting into Paramarthika, I will get into Vyavaharika. Kshaya happens. Unless this material burns out of you, this is what Krishna is telling throughout Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Arjuna, your vasana has to, Kshaya has to, you are a warrior here, do that. You are our, that's why in chapter 3 he said, Na karmananam anarambat naishkarmam purusham ashnute. There is a beautiful sloka, 4th sloka in chapter 3. Na karmananam anarambat naishkarmam purusham ashnute. What he is saying is, work. Only out of work you will get detachment. You cannot leave it halfway and say, I will become sannyasi. It will bother you. Because the vasana is still with you. That he brings with 2 beautiful slokas. How do you conclude that idea which he has talked in great detail? He brought 2 slokas in chapter 18. So he says, Yad ahankaram ashritya na yotsya, I will not fight. Yuddham na karomi. Na yotsya iti manyate, you may think like that. Arjuna, you may think like that. And you are thinking out of ahankara. You are not become very wiser. You have not understood there is this urge for you to be a the fruit has to ripe. After it ripes, urvarukamiva bandhanat mrityor mukshiyamamritat, mrityunjaya mantra. The Urvaruka fruit must ripe. Me like that. Take me out of death like that is that Mahamrutyunjaya mantra. Trayambakam yajamehe sugandim pushtivardhanam urvarukamaya bandhanat mrityor mukshiya. Ma amritat, not from immortality, from mrita, from death. Take me from death slowly like that. Which means, give me the vasanakshaya. Without vasanakshaya, you can't, CEO. It will become a, XYZ ashram, they will go section 25 company, everything will start. That's a very complicated problem actually. So, yed ahankaram ashritya na yosya iti manyate. You are not understanding, this is nothing but mithya. Mithya esha vyavasayaste. You are doing mithya, you are not doing satya, you are not doing what has to be done, you are doing something which is futile. Because you will not be able to do it. That's what Krishna is saying. This is following from the previous anyway. Mithya esha vyavasayah te. Each one of us have this RGB, which is Prakriti. Prakriti Guna Sambhava. In chapter 3, 27 shloka, Guna Guneshu Vartante, Iti Matva Mare Dharen, all those shlokas are there. 27 to 32 in chapter 3 discusses this very nicely, and shlokas, chapter 14, last 5 shlokas discusses this idea so well. So he says, this is your Prakriti. Prakriti is Tvam Niyokshati. It will throw you back. If you run back twice the vigor, you will come back. You are not going to leave because you are. So what is the point? This is again a very practical understanding. The point is, our texts are not, taking the entire population and lining them into the sannyasi. It says a person who is a trader must be a trader. A person who is a professor must be a professor. We are all at different stages of this vasana. Exhaust it slowly. And then one day you will move. Don't have, that's why Swadharma. Do the Swadharma. Only because of this. Because Prakriti Guna Sambhavaha. So he says, you may think like that, it will not leave you. Swabhava jena. Ja is Janma. Swabhava, it comes out of Janma. When you are born, you are wired. The key has been given. The Prarabdha is implanted everything into the Karana Sharira, which became a Sukshma Sharira, which became a Stula Sharira and got into activities. Everything are all actually wired in. You are only playing. Actually, if you don't understand it, you will be in complete delusion and you will never progress. If you understand all these, you will know while I am doing it because of something, you will now start looking at and say, let me adjust myself. That thinking will come only when we understand. You are tied by your bhava, which comes at your janma. By birth, not by birth certificate, but by birth. By birth means when I am born, I bring RGB with me. That fixes me into a varna. 1 to 48 in this chapter. So he says, Swabhava jena kaunteya nibaddaha swena karmana. Your work is tied by your name. Function of Prakriti. That Prakriti came through birth. It's not chromosomal. It is not. It cannot be adjusted and modified with DNA. Not possible. Is your disease pattern. These are all kshetra dharma. These are all dharma for the kshetra. That DNA, biochemistry, all that you can do. This is not biochemistry. This is God chemistry or something. It is much